guys, I'm really excited to talk about this set. As you know, I'm a Vaughn fanboy, and I was really looking forward to using these V10s with just what I knew they changed with it, the updates. A lot of it was stuff I would have wanted them to do. So this is going to be the review after I've used them. This is not going to really, I might touch a little bit on the build, but really the build of the pads and that kind of thing, like the specs, that's going to be from my out of the box video. So go back and watch that if you want to see more about that. This is just really going to be my experience using them and how I thought they performed and whatnot. So I'll just say that overall, with everything, the leg pads, the blocker, glove, I was pretty impressed with these. Glove, probably the least of which is just kind of like another glove of theirs. But there was definitely improvements in the leg pads and the blocker. And really the blocker is what I'm happiest about, because that's the one thing that in my last V9 set, I actually went away from Vaughn and I did not use their V9 blocker. I used Bauer because I really like Bauer's blocker. They really improved the blocker. And I'm still going to say that Bauer has the best, in my opinion, has the best blockers overall, but at least like I can use this Vaughn blocker now, no issues. I don't mind using it as my full-time blocker. It checks off enough of the boxes for me that it's not really complaints, whatever. While I'd still put Bauer ahead of it, it's still a very good blocker now. But let's just get into each piece individually, and I'm going to start with the glove, because like I said, there's not that much to say about it. It's really nothing that crazy or new about it. So this is my V10 glove. There's kind of a story behind the glove. Again, you'd have to go back and watch my out of the box video. When I ordered this set, they didn't offer the same XP type glove that I had gotten with my V9. They have like an XP line of gloves that they've been doing for last couple generations of gear now, and they just weren't offering it when I ordered these. After I had already placed the order, like several weeks had gone by, and then is when I started hearing that they were going to offer the XP. So I do have an XP V10 XP 60-degree glove coming to me. They're in the process of making it or whatever now. But there's really nothing I can do about this that was already ordered. So this is just their stock V10 glove. In my opinion, it's very similar to like their stock gloves of past lines, V9, V8, V7. But it's just not what I really want. I really wanted the XP. Again, I told this whole story in the out of the box video, so I'm not gonna get too much into it again. But this is what I ended up with for now. XP glove coming. So this is still billed as a 60-degree glove, but it just has like a different kind of shape to it, and like the way it has your palm in it when you're holding it is just a little off from the XP, a little different. And even just that, even though it's the same break angle, I can tell the difference. That being said, like this was okay. It actually, I thought it was going to be worse than it was after using it. Like I could use this. It's not a terrible glove. I don't hate it or anything. It's just not that XP glove, which that V9 XP glove that I still have it for my V9 set. It's just like the most perfect glove I've ever used. I absolutely love it. And that's why when I found out they were offering it finally in the V10, I was like, I have to get that, because I'm going to kick myself if I know I could have gotten that and I didn't. But like I said, that being said, this is not a bad glove. Like I said, 60-degree. So really what I found by like looking at the two gloves, the difference is it seems like this piece right here on the XP is like a little longer. It comes down more, and it allows the glove to really open up like a complete pancake. So when you can hold the glove open almost with like a flat palm like this. Whereas this one, because this is shorter, it kind of stops it from opening up that much. And so you're almost holding it more a little bit like cupped, even at the full as open as it can get. You're almost kind of holding it like that. So it feels a little off, a little weird. Another difference they did with their stock gloves now, they used to have their stock gloves as 2-piece, and then the XP would be the 1-piece. Now everything of theirs, they just went all 1-piece, which I'm fine with, because I don't see a point in 2-piece gloves anymore, personally. And then like another difference is it's got this little angled bottom piece here on the cuff, which I actually do think is probably a little better than the XP glove, which just has a completely, it's just straight, it doesn't angle it. So what that means is most of the time your glove isn't going to be completely squared to the puck like that. A lot of times it's going to be a little more like angled. So this kind of helps if the puck hits there, since it's angled down back the other way. It's going to help block off that area and kind of prevent skip over. The XP glove is just completely straight, and so it doesn't do that. Now, this is not some big issue I've had that I really noticed, but I will say that that's probably like a little better thing that they have with this. But again, it's not like any big issue with that. But I guess, you know, you could argue that this is a little better designed that way. But just the feel of the glove, I prefer the XP. But like I said, this still worked pretty good. I did have to kind of like break it in a good amount. Like I alternated closing it, keeping it closed, and propping it open with like a little piece of a stick. There's like a little trick people use where you put like get like an old used stick, you put a little piece there, prop it open. So I kind of alternate opening, keeping it open and closed to try to break it in. Required a little more break in than my V9 XP glove did. But once it broke in a little better, I mean, it's still kind of annoying that I can't open it up as much as my V9 XP glove, but it wasn't so bad. I caught decently with it in the end. Like the first one or two skates, I wasn't catching really good at all, but I started getting a little more used to it. Like I said, it started breaking in a little bit. I can catch decently with it now. Again, not as good as the XP version of the glove, but it's not bad. And I think if you've been using their whatever stock V9, stock V8, whatever glove in the past, and you want to just continue with that and use this stock V10, I think you'll probably like it. It's just going to be like more of the same. There's really not, like I said, other than like changing this to a one piece, there's really not a lot of like newness to it, innovation. So in general, I'm saying like positive thing, you know, it's not a bad glove. The only like somewhat downside, and it's not something that actually happened, but it's just something I kind of noticed and I think could be a problem to some people. And I think I mentioned this in my out of the box video too, just because I noticed it even when I first put it on. I don't know, it feels, you know, I don't know exactly how they've changed like the padding or whatever with the V10 glove here, but it feels like there's not a lot of padding, like specifically right here, right down the middle. It almost feels like there's no like protective padding. It's almost just like, it feels like there's just like Gen Pro and maybe a thin piece of something else there. And I haven't taken like a real rocket to that area, and so it's like I've never like had a sting or anything since I've been using this. But I'm just wondering if you did take a really hard slap shot right there, if that could be a problem, could hurt pretty bad. Hopefully not injure, but so if you're somebody, I know there's some people a little more sensitive to that kind of stuff. They like to use like practice palm, pro palm instead of the game ready palm, which is what this is. You might want to look into getting some beefier version of this, pro palm, practice palm, whatever. And I didn't have to say that with like my XP glove in the past. I didn't really feel like that was an issue. Even like the last stock glove of theirs I had that was non-XP was like the V7, my V7 glove. I didn't even feel it with that. But I don't know what exactly they changed in there that makes it feel that way. But it just feels like there's really not a lot of protection specifically right there. But again, it was like I didn't have anything happen to me that like hurt or whatever like that. But I also just feel like it's because I really didn't take a super hard slap shot like right to there or whatever. So it's just something I would be aware of, and I'm throwing it out there just to be aware of if you're interested in ordering this glove, that if that's something you're really concerned with, you might want to go with some kind of more protective palm on the glove. But yeah, other than that, you know, it's a pretty decent glove. They make another glove that I like better, and so I've ordered that, and that's on the way. It's going to be the same color, same graphic, whatever, to match the rest of my set. But now I'm kind of going to be stuck with this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sell just this to somebody, but we'll see. Again, the whole story about the glove and how I'm annoyed with Vaughn about that is in my out of the box video. But as far as a review, that's basically it for the glove. So now let's talk about the blocker, which, like I said, I really am pleased with the improvements with it. If you saw my V9 review of the original V9 set I had, where I had the Vaughn blocker, my second V9 set, like I said, I had the Bauer blocker. I was kind of disappointed with it, and you know, ever since then, I've been telling people you might want to avoid Vaughn blockers, specifically the Velocity line at least, because the sidewall was just so flimsy. Like it really like to an unacceptable level. Like there was no need for it to be as flimsy as it was. And like I don't know, the blocker kind of, I don't know if breaking down is the right word, but like I don't know, the materials kind of had felt loose after a while with my V9 blocker, and like it was like the Gen Pro was like kind of coming up, bubbling up, not bubbling up, but like I don't know, it wouldn't sit flat against the inner padding or whatever. It just felt kind of, the whole thing in general, like the best word I could use for it was like sloppy. The whole blocker felt sloppy. It wasn't great. And you know, a lot of people don't really care about blockers. Blocker's a blocker, but there are certain things in a blocker I really look for, and I almost demand out of a blocker that I want to use. One is I need a sturdy sidewall. It's just after using Bowers, like I can't go back to using like some crappy flimsy sidewall. So this isn't a Bauer sidewall. That's like top of the line for me. But they did stiffen up the sidewall, and it's a lot better than it used to be. And it's at a level that I find acceptable that I can play with at this point. That aside from that, I also feel like, so with my V9 one, there was like a custom option. You could get like a carbon sheet put in the face of it to make it a little, I don't know, harder, make rebounds pop off it. And that is what I went with my V9. I mean, I didn't also have a V9 blocker without that, so I couldn't really tell you how much of a difference it made. But as I've been saying with how I felt about the V9 blocker, I didn't think it was that good overall. Anyway, with this, apparently it's now stock that they put that extra carbon sheet in there to like harden it up and give better rebounds. And they must have done something else though too, because I definitely feel like this gives off, or the rebounds pop off this a lot better than they did with the V9. I have a YouTube short up on my channel where it was the very first time I wore this set, and you just see me warming up a little bit and taking some shots. And I didn't really plan this or whatever, but for whatever reason, there were a lot of the shots happened to be to my blocker, and you really can see like the pucks bouncing off the blocker. So if you want to check out that little short video I have up of me warming up with this set, and you'll see how the rebounds just fly off this blocker. Again, not quite to that Bauer level, but way better than the V9 blocker was. And so yeah, I'm really pleased with this with this blocker. I like I said, have no problem using it now with those things they fixed that I didn't like on the V9. And aside from that, the cuff is pretty open. Like it has like a big piece here, but it's like bent out. It's like set point of it is just like to be open like this and bent outwards. And if you really wanted to, you could cut this elastic to really open it up more. But I feel like it's pretty open. I mean, I have no problem, with any kind of wrist flexibility, mobility, anything like that. That was absolutely no issues. But that was an issue with the V9 or whatever either. It's just something to say with this also. Like I feel like the wrist mobility is really good. The padding on the backhand here, feel like they put a thicker one in there, so you have a really good amount of padding back here. You should have no issues like, I don't know, feeling shots or whatever through this. It's much more of a like solid tank than the V9 was. Yeah, so like, the balance felt good. I had no issue. Like I do a lot of paddle down play. I had no issue doing anything of that. Like holding the stick. Sometimes people have problem with the stick integrating with this part of a blocker. I had no issue with that with this. Even like right out of the box, there was no issues holding the stick or anything like that. And like I said, the rebounds really popped off very good. Not quite Bauer, but really good. Like I was surprised how well the rebounds were popping off of this thing. So yeah, I really like the improvements they made with this blocker. I think that's a home run for them improvement wise with this. That was like one of my biggest issues with the V9 set I had. And not that they watch my videos or really listen to me specifically, but it's good that they happen to address the things that I had an issue with. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the blocker. I don't think there's really anything else to talk about. There wasn't, I'm trying to think if there was anything bad with the blocker. I really don't have anything negative to say about the blocker. I'm just really happy with the improvements they made and whatever. So, glove down, blocker down. Let's talk about the pads, which I loved my V9 pads. It's not that I really had like much complaints on it, but these are just like, if we're talking performance wise, like these are even a step up. Like I remember saying with the V9s, I thought they were sort of a step up in performance from like older Velocity pads that I, at that time when the V9s came out, the Velocity line had gotten a little stale. There was a lot of just like, oh, it's the same old thing year after year. It's fallen behind a lot of the other gear. The V9 had better performance as far as like sliding. A lot of that was because that was the first Velocity pad I had with the quick slide on it. Because before that I had the V7s. It was just Gen Pro. And there was more of a structure on the V9 than with past pads. But it was still, and especially, so again, if you haven't watched my out of the box video to see the specs that I order these in, this is not a stock pad. This is their version of the pad that's soft build, soft boot. That's how I ordered the V9s too, because I just like a softer pad. And at this point, and even with the V9s, the stock V9s are stiffer than I like. And I did get a chance to see the stock V10s in a store. And those things are super stiff. Like I couldn't believe how stiff they were for a Velocity pad. So just for a comfort factor for me, I have to order that softer build. But with that being said, this is the soft build of the V10s, and I had the soft build of the V9s. These are still a stiffer pad. And while I thought the V9s improved as far as like kind of the structure of the pad and holding its shape and that kind of stuff, as opposed to like older Velocity pads that were kind of more like pillows and they would get misshapen over time and kind of break down or shrink and all that stuff. This is really like, I mean, if you know, like with the V9s, and especially the way I had it built, if you compare them to like true 12.2s, which was their kind of what they were competing with it when they came out, Brian's Genetic 5, the contemporary of that like hybrid pad for them, like while I loved the V9 comfort and that's what made me go with them, I had to admit that there were almost all the other pads probably beat them out in a lot of the performance metrics. But when it comes to the V10, like they really bridge the gap for that. And like I said, this isn't the stock pad. If you get the stock V10 pad with the stock stiffness and that kind of stuff, it's basically going to feel a lot like a true pad. I feel like I've used the true 12.2. I've used some Bobrovsky Pro returns that were kind of similar to the new Catalyst pad out. And to me, the stock pad is a lot like that because they don't offer, like True doesn't offer a more flexible build. Let's put it that way. They offer like a soft option, but that just has to do with the face of the pad and as far as the rebounds go. But as far as like how the pad flexes, True pads are pretty stiff. Like, and I'm talking about even the 12 line, the Catalyst line, that's supposed to be their, again, hybrid. I'm using that word because you know what I mean when I say that. Not that anyone's really a hybrid or they like a hybrid goalie or use hybrid pads anymore. That's kind of antiquated language, but it's just that you know what I mean when I say hybrid pad, right? So, and not just True, but I mean like just about every brand now. And like I said, even Vaughn at this point, their stock hybrid pad is still pretty damn stiff now. Like it's just everything's going that way. That's the industry. Everything's going stiff pad. Nobody offers a stock flexible pad anymore. And even when it comes to custom, Vaughn is about the only one that will still offer something really flexible, even at custom. But this kind of reminds me, this spec I ordered with the flexible build kind of reminds me like if True offered a 12.2 pad in a flexible form, like if they had a soft build option. I felt like that's kind of what this feels like, because it takes like what the V9 did as far as more structured pad or whatever, and it even like upped it. So this is a little stiffer than how my V9s came with that soft build, and especially like I would say the torsion has been kind of the torsion isn't as much as on the V10. So torsional flex is like how like twisting this way, kind of you understand what I'm talking about? That's torsional flex, how it like kind of twists that way. It has less of that, still more so than just about any other pad, but less than the V9, and it a little stiffer. So it's really going to square up. It's going to seal the ice really good, and that helps. Just one of the things that helps with sliding is a stiff pad, which is part of the reason why everybody's going with that direction. So the fact that it is a little more rigid and structured, And then you also add in the fact that the quick slide is probably the best sliding material out there. And I've used all of them. This pad slides phenomenally. I can only imagine a stock pad probably slides maybe even a little better than that because it's even stiffer. But like the sliding, the seal, how it stays square, keeps its shape, and just I was blown away that they were able to do this on their Velocity line, and especially even with this soft, quote unquote, softer build that I ordered in. So I really like that about it, that it improved the performance. So there's always a little give and take with that, though, right? Like I said, it's a little stiffer. So you are giving up a little bit. Again, that's what I'm talking about now, specifically in this ordering spec, the soft build. You are giving up a little bit of that just extreme crazy comfort that I loved with the V9. This is still more comfortable than any other pad for me out there right now. But if I'm comparing it to the V9, I would have to say the V9 still edges this out as far as comfort, just because the V9 is like literally a pillow that will bend and flex any way you want, and it's almost like you don't feel like you're wearing leg pads. Not because they're so light or anything like that, but you don't feel like you're wearing leg pads because no matter how your leg moves, the pad will move with you. Whereas opposed to most stiff boxy pads, it's more like you feel something on your leg, not something that's organic with your leg. So this has a little bit less of that organic feel on your leg, but like I said, it's still basically more comfortable than any other pad I've tried. So I am still getting really good comfort with it. And I'm willing to make that trade-off slightly of the comfort for the better performance with these. Again, just like in every performance metric, and rebounds pop off this better too. I forgot to mention that. So like, you know, the rebounds popping off, the sliding, the seal on the ice, like all that stuff is better with this. Like I said, the one drawback maybe slightly less comfortable than the V9. But also, if you're somebody that is not looking for this whole soft build stuff that I ordered, and you're just going by stock, then that's not even an issue with you, you know, because you like the stiff pads anyway, so that comfort thing is not, that's not coming into, it's not a factor for you. But just on performance metrics, where I felt like in the past Velocity pads were kind of behind some of the other ones, now it's really bridging that gap. Performance wise, it's right up there with a lot of the other pads. You know, Bauer is still probably, you know, they're doing some crazy stuff with their gear, but like as far as True and Brian's, I don't think like they have an advantage over Vaughn anymore in a lot of these performance metrics. Maybe Bauer still, but with most other pads, I feel like you can't really say that like Vaughn is lagging behind anymore now with the V10 with how they've done it. So like I said, let's talk about like, okay, how did they do it? So I kind of said that basically, like they stiffened it up. Like I can feel, just feeling the pad. You know, I haven't cut it open or anything like that, but like it just feels like they kind of changed the structure inside of it. And you, whatever they did, I don't know if they added like another layer of carbon or what, but you can just tell it's more rigid, stiff than the V9 was. Another thing that contributes again to the good sliding and the good seal, and this was a complaint I had on the V9, the knee wing. Knee wing on the V9 and even older Velocity pads, really floppy. It could like easily just bend either way. It was a little ridiculous, to be honest. A lot of companies now have started integrating the knee wing into the actual pad, and that's exactly what Vaughn did partially with this one. So it's not fully integrated. The whole knee wing isn't integrated into this, and I actually like took this knee wing thing apart. I'll kind of tell you why that later. I'll get to that. It goes along with something else I'm going to say later. But I kind of took this knee wing apart, not to necessarily see how it's integrated. That was just kind of happened after the fact. But like, so I saw what they ended up doing with it. So like I said, it's not fully integrated. It's about, not even quite half, like maybe 40% of it, I would say, is integrated into the pad. What it is like about 40% of this thickness is like this hard plastic that actually does go into the body of the pad. It kind of fits in like a puzzle, like an IKEA piece of furniture or something like that. would be the best way I could describe it. So it fits into the pad. It's not like one piece with the pad, just fits into the pad. And then the other like 60% of the knee wing is kind of like a classic, just the knee wing foam, and it's just external from the pad. So it's not fully integrated, but it's integrated enough that it definitely stiffens this up. I mean, this is way stiffer of a knee wing than the V9, which was just flopping all over the place. That being said, it's not as stiff as like Bauer and like I think CCM now is like fully integrating the knee wing, so it's not going to be like as stiff as that. But for me, like I no longer have to complain about, oh, the knee wing is super floppy. Like I don't mind having some play here, but it's so much better than the V9 was with this thing, with how they've integrated part of it into the pad. So again, that goes along with like the improved performance of this. What else? So yeah, I mean, I think that's mainly the thing. Like, and I've talked about, I mean, this is still the same quick slides material they've been using for a few generations now. But like I said, you combine like that, the better knee wing, the stiffer knee wing, just the more structured pad overall, stiffer pad, and the quick slide, and that's where you're getting like just a great sliding with this, and how it seals off everything and whatnot, like what I was talking about. The boot with this, I mean, it's not really much more that I'm going to have to say with what I said out of the box. It's a very flat boot. It's pretty flexible, probably more flexible than just about any other boot you could get out of like the main top companies. Just like the pad itself is more flexible than probably any other pad you're going to get from any of the name brand companies. Just kind of show you a little bit of the flex too. So if you go back and watch like one of my V9 videos, you're going to see that the V9 is like literally like an accordion, being able to smush it and whatever. So this is not quite to that level. Like I said, it is a slightly stiffer pad, but it is still very flexible. So another thing they did change with this, and I'm going to talk about how I felt playing with it, is, I talked about this in the out of the box, is the boot now has no boot channel. It's just completely flat. As far as it, like how it plays on the skate, I don't, and because I've used other pads that have this no boot channel flat boot thing, I don't really notice a huge difference. Like maybe, because even more recently, the pads that had a channel, it's not like, it wasn't like super deep. It wasn't like a 90s or early 2000s pad channel, you know? Like maybe I would notice a huge difference if you gave me like a really old pad that had a super deep, soft channel and then this. But like even the V9s that had more of a channel, it still wasn't that deep, and it had padding in there that kind of like took away the channel. It was kind of a weird design. So as far as just like how that plays on the boot, I didn't notice a huge difference. Now, what people were saying that it was going to do is like change how the pad fits, and you might have to get a different size with the V10. So I went ahead and got the same size V10 as I did with my V9s, 34 plus 2. I didn't notice a huge difference with the size. I would say at most it's like a half size difference. So I guess this would fit more like a 34.5 size pad in a V9, this 34 and a 10. But like with my V9s, I wasn't hitting low on the knee stack anyway. So even though this is ever so slightly raised up on my leg, it doesn't do anything. Like I'm fine with it. It's not like too big or anything like that. So for the most part, I think most people could probably go with the same size. The only case I would say maybe think about going to a smaller size is if you were already somewhat on the lower end, hitting on the lower side of an older Velocity pad, like especially V9 knee stack, then maybe that, even though it's only a little bit of extra height, that may go ahead and push you over the edge to needing a smaller pad. But as long as you were hitting like dead center or above dead center on your V9s, I think you're all right going with the same size. I don't think you have to change the size. So that's kind of what I have to say about how this boot has changed and how that may have affected the size. So something also different, and I completely forgot to mention this in the out of the box video, mainly because I don't use Vaughn's stock toe tie system. I use this as a Kova toe tie system, and that's not even what I'm talking about now though. So they changed the way they did their toe bridge. For one thing, it's super thin, just a thin piece of like hard plastic. It used to be like a thicker piece of foam, and it used to be screwed in. It used to have Velocity pads always used to have 2 screws here that was holding the toe bridge in. It is now sewn in. So that's a new development with this that I forgot to mention. I completely overlooked in the out of the box video. Just from what I've used it, I don't feel a difference in how it feels. The only thing I'm kind of thinking that might be an issue long term is durability, because obviously when it's screwed in, first of all, that's just more secure, but also like if anything ever happened, you just unscrew it, you can replace it very easy. If this, for whatever reason, gets like ripped out, the stitching comes undone, now you're running into more of a problem where it's not really easy to replace. You'd either have to know how to sew pretty good, or you'd have to send it to somebody that could re-stitch it on or whatever. So that's the only kind of thing that I'm a little worried about is like real long-term kind of use with this, is how this is going to hold up. But just as far as it plays, I don't feel like it makes the pad or whatever play any different just because it's sewn in instead of screwed in. So let's talk about the like strapping and leg channel. Ultimately, I was able to kind of get this strapping and feel of the leg channel to feel about the same as my V9s, because they give you a lot of options with what you can do with it. But that being said, I'm not crazy about this strapping system. I think they kind of changed for change's sake, and I don't think it's necessarily better. And I think it's something they could improve upon maybe with the V11. So let me kind of open this up here and show you what I'm talking about. And I think I kind of touched on some of this with the out of the box video too. So what you're going to see here is a little different than what is possible, because I removed the strap I could use. So again, I talked about this in the out of the box video. They have 2 inner straps that you can use here. See these 2 attachment points? So I kept this top one. I took away the bottom one. And I mentioned in the out of the box video that I was going to do that because I have no need for a strap down by my ankle. So the top one is kind of basically where like the Professor strap was on my V9. And I like the Professor strap. So I did want to use this one. Now the problem is, the way this is attached is kind of weird, and makes it kind of hard to put on when you're putting your leg on, the pad on your leg. With the V9 Professor strap, it was like effortlessly putting on. It was no big deal. You just looped it around this, you velcroed it, boom, you're done. This, because of, it's almost like in the loops you have here and the attachment point is almost like covered by your leg. It's like in front of your leg. So you kind of have to like lean the pad forward and then try to loop this through the other thing. And it's hard to do with 2 hands because you're holding the pad almost with one hand away from your leg, and then trying to do this with just the other hand. And it's like, I felt like I was back in high school trying to get a girl's bra off. It was weird. I'm like struggling. So it takes a little extra time, and it's just a little annoying. And I just don't like the placement of it. Like once it's on your leg and you have it set, it basically works like the Professor strap. I'm just not crazy about this design they did on this. And then, so they have another option too, which again, I'm not using, where they have the same 2 attachment points, but on the outer part of this, like calf wrap piece, this inner calf wrap piece, so you can wrap that tight to your calf. So here's like kind of my thinking on this. I think they kind of saw like what was out there. Like True has the FRS system, which is sort of like a calf wrap style attachment point there. And then, obviously they've seen and they've used the Professor strap, and it's almost like they're like wanted to give every possible option, but in doing so, they didn't do any of those options good. They're giving you a lot of mediocre options and not any one great one. I don't feel like that, even if you like, which I did like the FRS strapping system on True, but this is just very big, and it takes up literally the whole length of from below the knee down to your ankle, and it just doesn't work the same as the FRS system, in my opinion. It's not as good. And then, like I just talked about with the Professor strap, the way they did this is kind of awkward. So like I say, at the end of the day, I made it work to like how I like it, but it's just kind of weird. I feel like they could have done it better, or even just kept literally the same strapping from the V9 would have worked fine for me, because that's basically how I ended up making this work for me. So I'm not really crazy about the strapping. We'll see. I'm wondering if like, again, this was kind of almost an experiment with the V10 where they're offering a lot of different options with the strapping, and then they're going to kind of get feedback and see like what people liked more, and maybe just go with a more singular style strapping system with the V11, but just make it a little better. And then the other thing too is, and this was an issue in V9, and like I've heard this issue a lot with Vaughn, from a lot of people. These stock straps they give you are so goddamn short. Okay, I have skinny ass legs, and if these things are too short for my skinny ass legs, I don't know how anyone else is using them. Now, this is not the strap that came with it. I got Vaughn to give me longer versions of this strap, because with the original straps I had to kind of rig an extension myself with just some extra pieces of Velcro I had, and I kind of made my own little extension piece to it, and I used that for a little bit until these longer straps came in from Vaughn. And even with this, so I got them to give me an extra 2.5 inches on this, and even that, I'm still kind of on the further end of this. It's just crazy how they give you no length to these straps, and I had a very similar issue with the V9 pad too, with one of the calf straps. So that's something to be aware of too. Like if you can go ahead and right off the bat get Vaughn to give you longer straps, I would recommend that, because like I said, my legs are skinny, and if I'm having trouble with it being too short, almost everyone else is going to have that too, I feel like. And like I said, I have heard that complaint from a lot of other people, not just the V10, but just other Vaughn pads. Just whatever it is, they're like stingy with the length of their straps. And it's a very fixable problem, but it's just like, why? It's annoying. Why are you giving us these short ass straps that don't even work for anybody? And then whatever. Here's my leather straps that I always get custom. This is not stock. I get custom. I talk about it more. Explain why I do that in the out of the box. So again, go watch that if you want. The bootstrap with this. So the bootstrap, it doesn't. So the stock version of the V10 does not come with a bootstrap. I still use a bootstrap, so I ordered it with a bootstrap. I didn't really look too much into it, because I kind of assumed it was going to be the same bootstrap like I had with my V9s, which was all it was like elastic and Velcro. I don't know if I made a special request if they would have given me that exact bootstrap, but either way, that's not what I got. So I got like this one that's almost like an older style, where it has like the buckle and more gembro. It does have a piece of elastic here, so it does stretch. And at the end of the day, this bootstrap works for me. It's all right. I just would have rather, like, if we had already gotten away from this system with the V9s, why are you bringing this back with the V10s? This is like an antiquated system with the buckle. I like the V9 system, was very easy to use, with it just had like a loop that you loop the strap through, come out the other side, and you Velcro it, and it was fine. Worked great. So I kind of don't know why we're almost like going back in time here with the buckle thing. But like I said, in the end, it works. It's just like, it's kind of ugly. Again, it looks old fashioned. I don't know why they did it with this, but maybe if I would have made a special request, I could have gotten like that V9 bootstrap. Something I didn't think about when I ordered the bootstrap. I thought that's just what I would get. Another thing I want to talk about is, in the past, and I even made a video of how I add knee stacks to my pads, because, well, I'm not going to get into it. If you want to watch the video, and I'll explain what the advantage of adding a knee stack to it is. So the thing with this though is, the stock knee wing on this V10 is actually already thicker than the stock V9 one was, but not as thick as my V9 with the added knee stack. So when I first used these first couple of times, I did add the knee stack in there, and that's why I had to kind of take the knee wing apart, just because of this whole Velcro system, the way this is attached. It wasn't easy to do it. I had to kind of take it apart and then stick the extra knee stack in there. But I found that, I think part of it, like I said, is because this is already thicker than the V9 one was. So with the extra knee stack, it's thicker than my V9 with the extra knee stack. That, combined with just this being stiffer, it made this knee cradle whole area too busy, and ended up being too thick, and it felt weird, and I didn't like it. So after I took it out and I've been skating without it, and I just feel like this pad feels better without that extra knee stack. But like I said, it is thicker than a stock V9 one is. So I am getting a little bit of a thicker knee stack still. It's just, I would say it's like literally, I mean, it's not much of a difference. It's like maybe 1 or 2 centimeters less thick than the V9 with the extra knee stack. But it's just something that, I don't know, if you do that, you might also have trouble with it trying to add it to this, just because, like I said, I just feel like it makes it too thick, too busy. And there wasn't enough adequate room for my leg in there. It felt weird. I didn't like it. So with these, I'm actually going to go without the extra knee stack. I just prefer how that plays like that. Yeah, I think that's about it, man. Like I said, it just really overall the thing that stood out to me was the improved performance of these pads. Really now, in the past I've mainly been using Vaughn for the comfort, and even when I've been giving recommendations to people, a lot of times I don't, even though I love Vaughn, I don't recommend it to other people just because depending on what they're looking for, a lot of other companies I would have argued do it better, whatever they're looking for, other than comfort. But now with these, like, you can't really say that easily anymore. Like, this is just a really good overall pad, even not even thinking just about the comfort and just about something that's specifically for me. So, if you're in the market for a set or specifically leg pads, and maybe you normally wouldn't have thought about Vaughn, you might want to, if you can, if you have a store, you might want to check them out. Give them another look. If you maybe used Vaughn in the past, but then you felt like, oh, they've gotten a little outdated and other brands surpassed them. Again, maybe taking a look at the V10, because I really feel like now they've bridged that gap in performance and how the pad plays to where, other brands don't have like that advantage over them anymore in those aspects. So I've just been really pleased with how these are. Yeah, and like I said, I'm gonna be getting the XP glove in. I'm not gonna do a separate review video for that because it's literally gonna be the exact same build as my V9 XP glove. So you can just look at my review on my V9 glove. It's just gonna have the graphics, whatever, that match this set. But yeah, so I'm just really impressed with this set, and I mean, I was excited before I even used them. I kind of had a feeling, like I said, just because I heard and knew like some of the changes they were making, so I was really excited to try them out, and I was really hoping that it was going to be what I expected, and it was. Like it's everything what I expected, and even more in some cases. Like I didn't, especially with the leg pads, I didn't expect what they are. Like the blocker, I was thinking, okay, if they did those little improvements, the sidewall, whatever, like, yeah, I kind of expected that if they improved it. But the leg pads, really think it's going to surprise a lot of people. And, like I said, don't just sleep on Vaughn anymore now, even if you're not looking for just some super soft, really old style pad or whatever, which is more my lane. But I know most of you guys don't use that kind of gear. But yeah, so that's pretty much this review video. That's been my 10-hour long dissertation. Wink, wink. You know who you are. Yeah, so I'll see you in the next one.